And I'm just laying there and I'm not feeling a whole lot. And my eyes are closed. And all of a sudden, this huge ball of white light was hovering above me. And I felt the most intense love from it that I ever felt in my life. And I suddenly realized it was my deceased brother who had taken his life a year and a half earlier. And tears just started rolling down my face.
Welcome to the Spirits Beside Us podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lippincott. I'm an ex-Wall Street analyst turned international medium, spiritual teacher, and best-selling author. Each week we'll dive into the fascinating and uplifting arena of the non-physical world to help you deepen your understanding and spiritual connection to the unseen realm. We'll also share a behind-the-scenes look with others who've done the same and speak with experts in the field about their experiences. Pull up a seat and let's dive into these perspective-changing conversations. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Spirits Beside Us. I'm so glad to have you back again. This is going to be a great episode because I can see and feel that we're already going to be talking again more about spirit and more about how we can connect with spirit and all the great spirituality and meditation, all these wonderful things. But before we get into all of that, I want to introduce you to my special guest who's going to be helping us talk about this as we hold our lattes and chat with each other. Her name is Cheryl Stelte. She's a spiritual coach, master healer, speaker, best-selling author. She's got 3 transformative books already out there. She's also the founder of an institute called the Star of Divine Light Institute. And wonderfully, she's a creator of the Azarius Energy Healing Certification Program. That's a tongue twister. But if you get that, you automatically get the certificate. And with that, Cheryl, thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Like I've already said, it really is a privilege to be here with you and to be sharing this time together and your listeners.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to have you here. I can't wait to jump in and start talking not only about your background, but also some of the things that you've come to learn and some of your experiences, because I'm sure that's certainly going to help so many people. As I sense it, as we were kind of talking about earlier, it seems that so many people now are starting to have either these experiences that before they couldn't explain, or they're starting to have these spiritual ascensions that before would have been completely foreign to them. And it sort of seems like the whole world's starting to, I don't want to say catch on, but I do want to say there's this growing awareness and acceptance of spirit, of spirituality, of spiritual self-help and all that. And have you picked up on this as well? It seems like everybody is starting to, whether you choose the word ascend or awaken, it seems to be everybody's growing.
Absolutely. Humanity is evolving, I believe, at a pace we never have before. It's rapid. When I started on this journey 31 years ago, I was raised Catholic, and so I believed in God, and I hadn't been to church for a long time. And I used to try as a child to experience God, like, God, where are you? And I had this longing to know God. But, I had a profound experience 31 years ago, and meditation was not a word that was ever used in my world or around me. Spiritual was not a word. The language that's used today, ascension, evolution, awakening, that was not happening, folks. Yoga was just starting to catch on. Yoga was just beginning to be popular. You were starting to see it in the community centers. Whoa, yoga.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's so amazing. To your point, I can remember, back when I was on Wall Street, all these concepts and words were completely foreign. They were taboo. Like, if you mentioned it, you were looked at like you had 3 heads. It's like, you said the word and you were shunned. It was like, well, I can't even raise this concept, let alone even believe in it. Like you, I was very much so. I was raised in an agnostic family, and the whole concept was either never brought up or was just like laughed at. It's kind of like, and much like you, I kept on hearing these thoughts of, religious people talking about the word God, I'm like, what does God mean? All these people believe in this thing called God. I don't, fate, but now it's like all about going beyond just religion and beyond the concept of God, but more into the concept of our ability to connect to whatever is greater than us, whether that's spirit or our spirit guides, or for some people, angels. I mean, it just seems like everybody's now has that desire to connect with something beyond them. For many, it's a lost loved one. To many, it's a spirit guide. To many, it's, their, their higher selves. But everybody's now going beyond just the religious institutions to the one-on-one relationships. Perhaps that's why we're seeing religious connections starting to slide, or perhaps less of an attribution towards religion and more towards spirituality. It seems one's kind of favored to the other.
Yes, yes, it's true. It's absolutely true. And there are those who are still not open to it. I've had people who will not work with me because they say it's against their religion. I had a virtual assistant I was looking at hiring, and then she said, I can't work for you. It's against my religion.
Wow.
Because
And
I'm a spiritual coach, master healer, because I'm a healer. And it was against her religion. And so that's, we all have to learn. We are souls. I believe we're souls in human form.
mm-hmm.
We all came here to learn and grow and be and do and evolve and acquire and connect and realize who and what we truly are. And so everything serves us, and so yes, we are growing and evolving. And there's, we're all moving to a higher vibration. Even with that, sort of the, kind of symptoms of that, you see more people going vegetarian. Not that you have to, but physical things, or even doing ritual, coming together in group, prayer, whatever it is. It's like there are these outbreaks of spiritual evolution in certain communities and places, cities, that sort of thing. It's very exciting to be alive right now.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Now, you were mentioning that you came from a sort of a more traditional, more religious kind of upbringing. More in the kind of the Catholic religious institutional, whether it's a dogma, instruction, perhaps. But from what I understand, you had an experience that suddenly shifted your awareness or shifted your understanding of what was out there, that where you had a rather unusual connection with spirit a while back. So maybe you can share that, because it sounds like you went from one experience and understanding to suddenly lights get shown on something completely different. You're like, wait a second, this is completely different than what I've known.
Well, and I'm so honored to share this story with you now and with your audience, because it's 31 years almost to the day.
Wow.
that happened. And what happened, I was living on Vancouver Island in Canada at the time, and a friend of mine and I went up island to pick oysters. And the tide has to be low, and it was higher than we had anticipated. So we were waiting for the tide to go out, and for something to do, because it would likely be an hour or two. She offered to practice kinesiology on me, which she was doing a healing modality where she would muscle test with her fingers. And so I said, sure. So I'm laying on the beach and she's doing this, and she would, for the healing, she would name a person, often a relative or someone like that. She would say, oh, it's your father. Oh, it's your aunt. And then she was doing what she called these clearings. And I'm just laying there and I'm not feeling a whole lot. And my eyes are closed. And all of a sudden, this huge ball of white light was hovering above me. And I felt the most intense love from it that I ever felt in my life. And I suddenly realized it was my deceased brother who had taken his life a year and a half earlier. And tears just started rolling down my face. The amount of love. And she's going on with her kinesiology and saying all this stuff. And I wanted to say it's my brother. And then she said it. She said, "Oh, and it's your brother." And then she went, "Oh my God, he's here." And I said, "Yes, he is." And so she channeled him. She channeled him. And within, I would say, a few hours, he stayed with us on and off the weekend. I started to be able to hear him as well and have a sense of where he was physically around us. It was so profound. It was, and neither of us had ever experienced anything like this. She had never experienced a spiritual being, and she certainly had never channeled one ever. So this was new, and I don't think she even knew I had a deceased brother.
Wow.
I don't think she knew. And so it was so profound and so transformative. And his message to me was to start meditating. His
Yes.
message to me was to start meditating.
And did you feel that at the time before then was meditation something that was kind of like you hadn't even considered, or was this suddenly like a new idea that you hadn't really sort of brought into your thoughts?
Well, it was brand new to me. Like I said, meditation wasn't a word that was used by anybody in my world. And he, he took his life, and he later said that he was, and this was not during that weekend, it was later in another experience, that he was suffering from bipolar and it was never diagnosed. But it was at a time when diagnosing depression and then getting prescription medication for it was becoming an in thing. It was pretty new. And I had divorced my husband. I had recently gone through, a very challenging divorce. I was married to who turned out to be, he became an alcoholic, but also very narcissistic. And it was really, I was pretty beaten down. And so my doctor had diagnosed me with severe depression and gave me medication and said, "You'll be on this for the rest of your life." So then here I have my brother's spirit saying to go off. So I went and talked to my doctor after I started meditating, and he was very much against it. But the interesting thing, so I didn't know, I knew with meditation, I thought you closed your eyes and sat cross-legged on the floor. So I started phoning meditation places, and they would all ask me, "So why do you want to learn to meditate?" And I would say, "So I can talk with my deceased brother." They would all say, I thought, "Oh, this is normal." And suddenly it's like, "Oh, okay, this is what these people experience." And they would all say, "Oh, sorry, we don't have that kind of meditation." And so I was just really confused. And then I was in a building, and there was a sign on the door, meditation classes. So I signed up and I went. I didn't say anything about my brother's spirit, and I learned to meditate, and it changed my life, because within 3 months I went off those antidepressants and never went back on, because I started to feel better, and meditation started to change me and how I felt and how I viewed myself and the world. And it wasn't like I was having experiences in the beginning in the meditation, but the results, I was starting to really see the results. And I thought, I would way rather meditate than be on this medication that I got occasional terrible headaches from. And so I went off it and never looked back.
Wow. So, I mean, what was it like when you were learning how to do the meditation? Because the biggest objection I hear from people when they start learning meditation or they try meditation is that, oh, my mind's getting in the way, or, oh, I can't sit still, or, oh, how do I do this meditation, or, oh, it's so challenging, or, oh, I can't stick with it. What was your experience, and how did you get over what may be the universal experience that everybody has.
Well, there are multiple styles of
Right.
meditation. And so what I learned was you focus on the breath on your upper lip sort of as it enters and leaves your nostrils, and that's your focal point. And if thoughts come, you just keep coming back to that.
Hmm.
No sitting cross-legged required. I mean, you could also sit on a chair. So I chose a chair. And the thing is, my view now on getting rid of all thoughts is good luck with that. And really, it's kind of a waste of time
Yeah.
because I very soon started to incorporate the full breath into my meditations, and I mean using a long full breath. And my instructor would say, no, you don't need to do that. You just breathe normally. But my body would want to do that because I learned living up in Alberta, Canada, in the cold winters, I learned to breathe with a long full breath to keep myself from shivering, to keep my body warm in the winter months. It would help me. And so it was kind of programmed into me. So when I would sort of sit and slow down that way, after a while, my body would start taking longer breaths. And it felt really awkward to try and make it short again. But I didn't know that that was giving me access to my subconscious.
Yes.
And then what would happen is these old stored emotions and fragmented memories and even physical sensations from stored trauma would start to come up. And I just learned to keep breathing and breathe through them. So any thoughts weren't about getting rid of them. It was about acknowledging them, the emotions and the subconscious beliefs. And I started healing myself and, learned about the chakras, and it went on. And I mean, I have spent thousands of dollars on, various spiritual trainings and healing modalities. And, for years, it was any vacation I went on, it was a training, it was a retreat, workshop, that sort of thing. So, yeah, so it just opened this world up to me and my family. I remember, calling my family and telling me this great news. I talked to Brian, and my father said, no, that didn't happen. And everybody else is like, oh yeah, really? Now you're really gone off the deep end.
You need some new meds.
Yeah. And then I started to second guess myself. Did that really happen?
Mm-hmm.
Did I make that up because I wanted it to happen? How was it that my friend, and then my sister-in-law said to me, because she had heard about this sort of thing and she was studying educational psychology. She said, I talked to one of my classmates about your experience, and she said, it's completely normal to start to second guess yourself because we're programmed to not believe it. My conditioning, and then my family and everybody else. And so I just sort of kept it to myself and that sort of thing, and just celebrated when my brother did come around again, and when I could experience him and hear him, it just, because there was no denying the love felt.
Yeah.
I couldn't have made that up.
Yeah, that's it's the one thing I tell people is that one question you're just bringing up is like the self doubt. Am I imagining this? Am I going through this? Is this something I'm just making up? The one thing you'll definitely know, aside from the fact that there's ways, if it's coming in out of the blue, that it's not your emotion, your imagination, because it's not part of your stream of consciousness. But the big thing that to your point, is if you're feeling it, if it's coming from your heart and you can feel it, like you felt that unconditional love from your brother, that is something that your imagination cannot create. That's something that's far beyond your being. It's something that comes from without. And to a point I think you had mentioned earlier, there's a famous saying from one of the best known mediums of 20th century, if not longer, Gordon Higginson from the UK, says, before you can know the spirit without, you must first know the spirit within. because, as you said, we're all spirit. We're just having a human experience. But when you know your own spirit, you then can know the feelings, and then you can know that experience that's coming from without. And it sounds like that's what you did. You, when that was happening, you weren't even thinking about it. That experience unto itself was coming out of the blue.
It's exactly right. It's exactly
so. Not only did you have the experience coming out of the blue that you never would have imagined or thought about in a million years, but the internal feeling when you were already in a state of depression, it comes out of the blue. You're like, wait a second, this just doesn't add up. It shouldn't be happening, but it did. And then he's saying, meditate, and you're learning how to meditate, and all of a sudden you're realizing, I can, again, feel the truer feelings that are coming from within and from without. And it also sounds like you were opening yourself finally to the energy that was without, because you were removing the pain, you were removing, the ego mind, you were quieting the mind, you were allowing yourself to just be centered as you were focusing on the breath. And as you do that, you center yourself, open yourself up, and it's like finally saying, okay, I'm going to unlock that cabinet that's been keeping me shut for all these years, and finally open it up and turn down all that static that's been yapping away and making all that noise that I can't hear anything. Oh, wow, there actually is noise out here. Wait, that's not noise. That's actually spirit talking to me. Oh my God.
It's so true. And even I remember as you're talking, I had such a strong physical sensation when by the end of the weekend, it was the last day, and we're going to be leaving. And so we're back at the same beach again. We're picking more oysters to take home with us. And there was this long bank, like a really tall bank, sand bank. And I was standing on top of it, and I will never forget this. So my friend and I had become very comfortable communicating with Brian's spirit through the weekend. And he was there, and I knew he was standing down on the beach, below the bank, and I'm standing at the top of the bank. And I said to him in my mind, I wasn't speaking to him out loud because he could hear me that way. I guess you could call it telepathic, whatever you call it. And I said to him, I thought, I'm going to take a risk here. It's so amazing to hear you. It's just such a gift. It's so amazing. I said, but can I see you? And so I waited to see what happened, and nothing happened. And then all of a sudden his spirit jumped up to be right beside me. And he said, no, you can't see me. He said, but you can feel me. And it was like he was rubbing shoulders with me. And it was just so beautiful. And it was so him.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And then, then I went back to my life and, didn't feel him the same way until I started meditating again, and then would have visits periodically, and it really transformed my life. And he today still is such a huge support, and that, and I've learned from him in how to be a better person in the world because of his presence.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. And you touched on an important point. A lot of people think that when somebody transitions, well, that's it for them. And, they're off in some never land and will never to be seen again. And if they ever are heard from again, they're going to be somebody completely different. But they never change. The only thing that does change is perhaps their overcoat that they were wearing in the human existence. That's it. Everything else is exactly the same. So to your point about his personality was identical. He comes over and he says, no, you can't see me, but you can feel me. And I'm like, that'd be exactly what he would do. It's the personality is identical always. And because guess what? The personality is nothing but the consciousness within that we have always been, we always are, and we always will be, to the point where when you think of yourself, when you think in your mind, in your own head, and you start talking to yourself, that voice in this inside of you, whether you're 5 or 105, is the exact same person. It doesn't age. It doesn't change. It's a personality. It's the way you think, the way you speak, the way you act. Whether you're 105, or, you're 500 and you're coming in from spirit, you're going to be acting the same way, just like Brian did. When he comes in, he goes, "But you can feel me," and sure enough, you felt him. And that's the beauty of spirit. And that's what's so amazing is that, for example, when I'll give readings for somebody, their personalities come through stronger than anything else, and that's the way people immediately know who is coming through, because it's their personality is so unique and so powerful. They paint themselves back into 3D, and you're like, "Wow, here's the person." And they're like, "Yeah." It's like the example I often give is, and the one that'll live in my mind forever, is when I was giving a reading and to some woman, and this man steps in and he just jumps into my presence bounds into my presence with this powerful, energetic, high smiling vibration, jovial personality. But he's got a beer mug in his hand. He goes, "Hey, you want a drink?" I'm like, and I described this person to the sitter, and she's like, "Oh my God, yes." That's all he had to do. And it's the personality that you know immediately who it is. And that's not your imagination, because your imagination cannot make that up. It's good, but not that good.
Yes, and it's so true. I hear absolutely what you're saying, and I believe that those spirits, when they come back and they want to be heard, they want to help the other person, they will always reveal something unique about them. And the first time, if I may share a story, the first
Please.
time I did a reading for somebody and a spirit came. So I had connected with my brother. I was in a spiritual school where we were calling in spiritual support. So I was calling in some great saints and masters, but I wouldn't know their personalities so much, but I had a sense of them. Like you said, the feeling, I could feel their presence. Yeah. And I had also experienced experiencing these light beings for a period of time in my life. And they were like these light rods. But anyway, I was leading meditations, and this one woman was struggling in college and with anxiety, and so she wanted private meditation classes. So I said, okay. So I was doing that, and that was in Vancouver, Canada. And her mother was going to be visiting from Edmonton. So she texted me, "Can my mom come to my class?" I said, "Of course, bring your mom. That'd be awesome." So the day before, she texted me again and said, "My mom was wondering if she could get a reading from you when she's here." So I thought it's comical that this woman thinks just because I lead meditations that I can also do reading. Anyway, and so my gut said to say yes. And I had no idea what I was saying yes to. No idea.
Okay.
But I was in my truth, and I just thought, okay, so say yes. So they come, and we're going to have the meditation. And as we're getting settled in, I said to the mother, I said, "So you'd like a reading?" And she said, "Yes, I would." And I said, "Oh, so what does that mean to you? What would you like? What does a reading mean?" And she said, "Oh, I want to talk to my deceased mother." And I thought, okay. And I tuned in, and I just got say yes. So I said, and she said, "Do you do that?" And I said, "Yes."
I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll say yes.
So I lead the meditation, and then I tune in, and I did what I did when I called in the spiritual support. So I called in the mother. So I'm sitting there, and I get this woman. This woman arrives, and I can see her fully clothed, but she looks exactly like Queen Elizabeth. And she's got the gloves and the hat with the matching purse and all this stuff. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. And she had her cane, Queen Elizabeth sometimes had her cane. And I couldn't get rid of Queen Elizabeth. I kept trying to push her away. No, I need the woman's mother. And so then I said, I couldn't get rid of her. And I said, it's very strange, but I said, "Did your mother look like Queen Elizabeth?" And they both burst out laughing. And she said, Yes, she did look like Queen Elizabeth. She adored Queen Elizabeth so much that she dressed like her and she wanted us to call her Queen all the time. I said, well, then she's here.
Ah, great.
And and so I was so glad I said yes. And then what happens, then she asked the questions and it was all about being on her deathbed, etc. But then the love comes through. The love. And then we all sat there and cried together, like the love, the love, the love. Oh, I will never forget that. And so since then, as a healer, I have people's family members show up, certain people, and I'll say, there's somebody here supporting you. There's someone here that has something, and I would describe what I'm seeing and the certain way they would speak and that sort of thing. And then they would go, oh yeah, that's for sure. That's my mom or that so and so. And, so I don't advertise that I do readings of this sort, but I absolutely do. And it's always such an honor, such an honor. And it's as I'm sitting here, I'm just going to be really vulnerable and be really, really authentic in that I'm asking myself, why don't you do reading, Cheryl? And I have never put it out publicly because I didn't want people to think I was weird or flaky.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
But that is the quandary that everybody experiences, because we have this persona that we think we are, and we have this persona that we think is being judged by society and what we should be doing and what we have been doing and how we have been living our life. And all of a sudden we have this radical change that doesn't equate to what we used to be doing. And we're like, wait a second, am I supposed to come out of the closet and start describing what I actually am able to do? And I'm very different than what I thought I used to be. It's like all of a sudden we feel like we're becoming different people when in fact we've always been that. It's just that we were buried underneath this persona of what used to be, but the truth was always hiding underneath. And it's only now becoming revealed as to what we truly are. And I think that's the big thing. And it's like to your point, in the beginning, we're not only so unsure and unconfident of the abilities, but B, is this real? So we're covered in doubt, and so we don't want to come out with it. We don't want to say everybody else because we're afraid, well, we might be wrong, or we might be made fun of because we're wrong, or this isn't going to work out, or all those problems that, because it seems so touchy or taboo, or people say, oh, that's woo-woo, that we shouldn't be doing it. But then when you start to connect, to your point, with that overpowering love and the transformational love and healing that Spirit brings, you can't stay away from it. It's the number of times that I've thought to myself, oh, I gotta move on and do something different. I keep getting pulled back by Spirit saying, oh, no, you don't. Because they have a very different agenda than I do. And I knew that, many years ago when they recruited me, and it's still happening to this day. But there'll be times where a reading will be so powerful, so filled with incredible love and healing that you're like, you become addicted to it. You're like, I want to do this for the rest of eternity. I want to bring through their love and healing because it's so incredible. I mean, you'll see a person come in and, they're forlorn and they're downtrodden and their world has just collapsed and, the end is nigh and all that. And everything in their world is bleak and dark. And then all of a sudden their loved one comes through and the transformation on their face and their energy, it just becomes palpable. Just because all of a sudden their loved one comes through in spirit and gives them that love, and that love and connection becomes the very healing they've needed, and you witness this change. I remember the very first time I did that, I was like, I'm addicted already. I want to do that for the rest of my life, and that's what's so powerful. So they call us in as recruits, I'll say, and we may not have an initial desire to do it. Because to your point, we're like, oh, I don't know if I don't really feel comfortable. It doesn't fit in the social norms that I'm used to. It just doesn't jive. But then when you kind of get over that and you're working with it, you're like, oh God, this is beautiful.
It's true. It's so true. And it's kind of like there was a fine little line for me.
Yeah.
Fine little line in that I could do chakra readings for people because that's something I am a pro. I will admit I can see where people's light is shining brightly. I don't see the chakras as the lotus flowers with all the petals and the colors. I see light because we're made of light.
Right. We are light.
So I see the chakras as light, and I also see the dark spots where there's wounding and what needs to be healed. So I help, especially mature women, I help a lot of people evolve spiritually by helping them clear their blocks because we are all designed to become pure light and pure love. So I help them do that. So I have no problem advertising chakra readings, but for some reason, I think I've been doing this. I've had my business, my spiritual business for a very long time. And I think that's where I was before. And it's interesting because I have been doing a little more of that work very behind the scenes. So I'll have to really look at this. And you're really inspiring me because yes, the spiritual work, it's so wonderful when we can do spiritual work because the rewards are so tremendous. Tremendous to witness another, to be connected in those deep and profound ways, and the amount of energy that moves. It's so profound, always so transformational, and words can't describe, right?
No. Yeah. And it's funny because a lot of times people will ask me, well, you do so many readings, don't you get tired? And I kind of chuckle and I say, far from it, just the opposite. Because spirit is energy. They're giving their energy through me. I'm the conduit. So I kind of get this residual energy from spirit. So by the end of the reading, I'm transformed myself. I get a little bit of healing. I get a little bit of this energy. I'm like, whoa, this is fantastic. I want to keep on going. So do I lose energy? On the contrary, I'm gaining energy. And so that's what keeps me going.
Yeah,
and it's power.
Yeah, it's true. That is authentic power. It's the power of the universe, source, God, spirit moving through us. That is the greatest power.
Exactly. And
that's what I wrote my third book on.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, going back to the meditation concept, that's why the special meditation for connection to spirit is sitting in the power. You are literally sitting in the power of source as you expand your own internal power out into the universe, connect with source, and you're basically plugging into source. So if you're a rechargeable battery, you're refilling your energy through the highest outlet in the universe, and you're getting filled up with the most unconditional love and power and energy you could possibly ask for. And so then you keep on doing this and you just keep refilling. And by the end of the time, you might as well be just like a transformer. Literally, you're filled with energy.
It's so true. It's so true. It's absolutely just so fulfilling. And the gratitude, I'm sure that you feel, I feel the same, is just, I'm so often just overwhelmed with gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's so interesting is that, you were talking about, doing healings or Reiki or chakras. I've heard so many times that people who were not yet connecting to spirit or were not yet mediums, but had their first experience giving a spiritual healing or an energy healing or a Reiki session to somebody, had their first spiritual experience giving Reiki or giving energy healing, because all of a sudden they're like, whoa, wait a second. I'm connecting with the mother here and she's saying XYZ. Do you know a person who, says XYZ and does ABC? And the person's like, oh my God, yes. And that's all of a sudden, because they are connecting to that energy, they're already open. And it's like, oh, spirit finds this little window and says, there's a window that's open. I'm going to jump in and start talking. And lo and behold, it goes right through and they get to where they're needing to go.
That's right. That's right. Because we're all connected. I believe in, I live in unity consciousness as much as possible. We really are all one.
Oh, absolutely. It's because when it comes down to it, we're all the energy. We're all the same energy. energy can neither be created nor destroyed, so obviously it lives forever, but it's also the same thing. It's also coming from the same place, the same source. Whether you are thinking about it from the physical perspective, that we all came from the initial Big Bang, we're all made up of the same stuff, or you want to think about we're all energy, we're all the same energy. So it may just be showing up in a different way, but we're all inside exactly the same. And it's the external is nothing but a reality that you've created that's an illusion based on your ego mind. So I mean, we can go down the rabbit hole on that one, but it's like you literally create your own reality as you see it around you. And it's very different based on each person. So one person may see one thing, another person may look at the same thing and see something different. It's like, what is it? The three blind men who are looking at the elephant and they see something different, but it's all the same thing. It's all based on our assumptions. Well, we could go on for that one, keep on going. But how is it that, I loved when you were talking about seeing energy and working with energy. Do you find that was something that was natural to you, or did you have to, come to practice it? How did you start to understand about working with clearing energy and seeing energy and working with, not only the chakras, but knowing that you can actually see the light?
It was not a gift that I was born with. And so the first light that I saw was my brother's being. So I saw that ball of white light.
Yeah.
And so that was 31 years ago. And then, I trained in so many different modalities, and I first got into shamanism. And so that's when I started to be able to see energy. I learned, so I like I said, I did a lot of trainings. So I started to be able to see through that modality with various shamanic instructors. And then it went on, and I just started doing it more and more, and decided it was so beneficial as a healer. I developed my own healing modality. Yes, I became a Reiki master. I did all that in India, became a yoga teacher as well, but I teach it. That's what is really fun, is I can teach others how to do the chakra readings, how to do readings on others, and it's step by step by step by step. So what happens, a lot of people may have these gifts. They're born with these gifts. They can do readings, they can see energy, they're channels, they're mediums, but they don't know how to teach someone else how to do it. And so because I've learned, it's something learned, I can easily teach it. And it's funny, I'm just finishing up with a group. We're going to be doing our final retreat at the end of a 9-month program. It's a more advanced group. And when we got into doing the readings, they all said, "Oh, now we see what you were doing, why you were teaching us all these other steps, so that when it comes to it, the energy just flowed, and it really wasn't all that hard." And they were all excited that they were getting the right information and getting validation from their classmates and that sort of thing, because it's so valuable. It's a valuable skill. It's not fluff. I don't do readings for kicks and giggles. I do not, because it's not a joke.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's kind of the unfortunate thing, is that there's so many people out there who either do take advantage of it or try it and haven't been trained well enough, so that when they actually are giving, let's say, readings or something, that the information that comes through is either not 100%, not accurate, or worse yet, they're inadvertently or sometimes quite intentionally pulling the information from the recipient. So it's not the true authentic connection that they should otherwise be able to get. And that's kind of where you have a couple of bad apples and it spoils the whole bunch. And it's sad that there's still that aspect out there. And I think that's why there are a good number of spiritualist churches, for example, who are very adamant and disciplined and strict about cranking out and teaching the appropriate and quite disciplined teachings and modalities, so that they can go out and create people who are doing the honest and forthright and accurate practices, whether that's healing or mediumship or whatever they happen to be teaching.
That's right. It's like if you want to be an accountant, you have to train to be an accountant, and yet there's still good accountants and bad accountants.
Right.
It's the same with energy healers. It's the same with psychics and mediums.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, to your point, I mean, you could have a CPA at the end of your name, and you could still mess things up pretty badly. Or you can say, hey, wow, I'm the CEO of a company. Look how great I am. I don't know if I would trust a CEO if I could throw them. It's the same thing. Doesn't matter what, degree or title you happen to have. Are you authentic? Have you been trained well? Do you understand what the intentionality is behind it? I think that's kind of the critical aspect, is what's the intention?
yes, intention is so important. Where intention goes, energy flows always. What is your intention? Just such a great inner question to ask oneself throughout the day, even.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, a lot of times people ask me, well, don't I have to, do a ritual or protect myself or worry about bad spirits and all about this stuff? And I'm just like, actually, no. All you need to do is set the intention, because where you set the energy, where you set the intention is what you're going to create. As Buddha once said, all that we are is a result of what we have thought. So it's that intention that we set. That's what we think about, we bring about, and it's that energy that we're creating. And furthermore, spirit cannot interfere with our free will. So as we set that intention, that's what we receive.
So true. So, yeah. It's absolutely true. And even with my chakra readings, I used to do chakra readings years ago. If people would come to me and say, "Well, I'm just curious. I just want to see what you can see," and I don't do those anymore. It's like, what's the point? It's always so vague. It kind of lands flat because they're not invested. They don't have an intention. What's your intention? Why are you coming to me today? You give me an intention, you're going to get what you want, because that energy flows and the universe responds.
Absolutely.
And so when you're just sort of vague, oh yeah, I just want to see if this is real, and I just want to see what you see, then the universe is like, oh, okay, well, you're not invested. We're not going to invest too much.
That's happened. So yeah, I mean, it's in the healing. I know that's happened so many times in a reading. Somebody says, oh, I just wanted to see what you were like. I'm like, excuse me. And so to your point, what they were expecting was completely fulfilled, because they were like, well, I'm kind of, not really expecting much. That's exactly what spirit delivers. I'm like, all right, here's the information. What you want and what you need are two different things. Often they'll line up. And if at that point in time, you may not have needed much. So that's what you got.
You put that so well. What you expect is what you get.
Yeah, it's amazing. So it's again that energy. And so what would be so interesting is, I once had a teacher. She's transitioned, but she would do readings for people. But she could also see the energy in people's aura and the colors in their aura, just with her objective eyes. And she was doing this. She was about to do a reading, and this man, steps forward and says, I want a reading. I got to have this. And she looked at him, and she could see his entire aura was like brown and dark and just not a lot of light in there. And she's like, oh, I don't know. And she just, there was something about him that she was just like, I don't want to deal with this person because I can just see the energy's way off. So she declined. Turned out that guy was, I think, wanted for murder or something like that. And so it's like she could see the energy was like all over him. And she's like, no, I don't really want to interact with you, but thank you. So it's like your energy will be seen, felt, and heard. It's like, you don't even have to have any modalities that you're aware of, but you'll feel it, you'll experience it. Just go into the office and, do you connect with somebody? You're interacting with their aura. Do you not connect with somebody and you feel kind of, I don't know about that person? You're still feeling their aura.
That's
still
right.
feeling their energy. It doesn't take an expert. And that's the funny thing. So many people have this natural, innate ability because it's resting in their hindbrain, but they don't really either A, utilize it, or B, they're not even aware of it. It's more like a reaction. It's absolutely, it's amazing. Well, Cheryl, this was fabulous, and I thank you so much for coming on. What if you were to talk to one listener and give them a piece of advice that you think they might most need to hear? What do you think that one piece of wisdom might be?
That would be that you are powerful beyond belief, powerful beyond what you can currently imagine. You just have blocks that are getting in your way. And if you can heal those blocks, you have great things to do, to become, and to share with the world as your own unique soul. So yes, you are powerful beyond what you can currently believe.
Ooh, I love that. That's great. So well said. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So how can people get in touch with you?
You can look me up on my website, starofdivinelight.com. So it's all lowercase, one word, starofdivinelight.com. And if you really want to talk with me, you can just enter a call with Cheryl. You can just search me, Cheryl Stelte. I'm mostly on Instagram for social media. So if you want to reach out to me there and follow me, send me a DM, I would love to hear from you.
Great. And we'll make sure to have all of your links down the show notes. So all that great information will be available to you. And, I thank all of you for listening and watching today. I hope you got something worthwhile out of this. This is wonderful having this great conversation with you, Cheryl, and also sharing all this information out with everybody else. So everybody, thank you for joining and listening. And remember just to like and subscribe so that way you'll get all the episodes every Wednesday. So with that, I'm signing off, and this is Chris sending you love and light and wishing you all the best. And I will talk to you next time. Bye for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Spirits Beside Us. Make sure you head over to the show notes for all the links and information on this week's episode. You can check it out at spiritsbesideus.com. If you love this episode as much as I did, head over to rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're looking for a community of spiritual seekers like yourself, make sure you join my Facebook page, Spirits Beside Us Podcast on Facebook. This is Chris signing off, sending you love and light. I can't wait to connect with you again on Wednesday.